In a chilly autumn of 1990, a bright-eyed student named Linus Torvalds sat hunched over a rudimentary terminal in his dorm room at the University of Helsinki. Surrounded by lecture notes on operating systems and the soft hum of his Sinclair QL, he imagined a world where computing power was freely shared rather than locked behind expensive licenses. Little did he know, his maverick curiosity would soon ignite a revolution transcending borders and industries. Linus was born into a family of thinkers on December 28, 1969, named half in homage to Linus Pauling and half after the beloved blanket-carrying cartoon character. His parents, campus radicals in the 1960s, imbued in him a healthy skepticism of authority and a playful reverence for ideas. By the age of 11, the VIC-20 at home had become his kingdom, and BASIC his first language of creation. In those early years, Linus traded the simplicity of BASIC for the challenge of raw machine code on the 6502 CPU, then leapt at the chance to tinker with the Sinclair QL's operating system. He wrote assemblers, editors, and even a rudimentary Pac-Man clone he dubbed Cool Man. Each hack and detour seeded a restless ambition to craft something entirely his own. The first real spark came in 1991 when, fresh from reading Andrew Tannenbaum's operating systems, design and implementation, Linus encountered Minix. He admired its pedagogical elegance but chafed at its limitations and restrictive license. He longed for a system that could harness the full power of his newly acquired 80,386 PC clone, a machine boasting protected mode capabilities his QL could only dream of. On January 5, 1991, Linus invested all his student savings in that Intel 386 rig, mapping out its memory and registers like a cartographer charting unclaimed territory. Night after night, he pored over the processor's manual, envisioning a kernel that could exploit those 32-bit advantages Minix simply could not. The seed of Linux was sown in lines of code and caffeine-fueled resolve. By April of that year, the first rudimentary kernel began to take shape. It would echo Unix's calls and interrupts, yet it carried Linus's signature defiance, no commercial strings attached. He coded and tested on his bedroom workstation, each successful boot a small victory against proprietary complexity. On August 25, 1991, Linus posted a humble message to comp.os.minix, inviting feedback on his fledgling kernel. The tone was casual. He described it as free and just a hobby, but the momentum was irresistible. Replies trickled in from curious students and hobbyists around the world, their encouragement fueling his next all-nighter. 33 days later, on September 17, 1991, Linux kernel version 0.01 was made available via an FTP server at Helsinki University. Though barely functional beyond a simple shell, the release marked a watershed moment. Here was a Unix-like kernel that anyone could download, examine, and tinker with, free of charge. As December approached, Linux 0.11 emerged, the first version to compile itself, a badge of self-hosted maturity. By early 1992, Linus recognized that a homemade license prohibiting commercial use flew in the face of his free software ethos. With the arrival of version 0.12 in February, he adopted the GNU General Public License, forever binding Linux to the principle of open collaboration. Word of mouth turned to word of code as volunteers from across continents joined the effort. By the spring of 1993, scores of developers contributed device drivers, network stacks, and file systems. The kernel blossomed into a symphony of global teamwork, each commit a new instrument in its orchestra. On March 14, 1994, Linux 1.0 was released to fanfare and relief. Linus, ever modest, called it stable enough for the brave, but the world heard a clarion call. Unix vendors watched nervously as this underdog system matured into a viable alternative for servers and workstations alike. Ports soon followed. From SPARC to MIPS, Alpha to PowerPC, Linux donned new architectures as effortlessly as a chameleon changes color. Distributions like Slackware and Debian bundled the kernel with GNU tools, making installation accessible even to those who couldn't coax a compiler from source. Commercial interest blossomed. Red Hat, SUSE, and others saw an opportunity to package, support, and sell Linux to enterprises hungry for low-cost stability. Servers running Linux began to proliferate in data centers, powering websites, databases, and academic clusters around the globe. In 1997, Linus crossed the Atlantic to join Transmeta in California, trading his Finnish sweater for Silicon Valley's casual flair. He later helped establish the open-source development labs, which merged into the Linux Foundation, ensuring that kernel governance remained transparent and inclusive. Meanwhile, the ecosystem exploded beyond traditional computing. Linux-powered embedded devices, fueled early Android phones, and drove network equipment. On supercomputers, it reigned supreme, its lightweight versatility conquering environments from CERN's research clusters to Wall Street's trading floors. Today, Linux kernels number in the millions of lines of code, maintained by thousands of contributors and stewarded through Linus's practice-benevolent dictator model. From the smallest IoT sensor to the largest cloud platform, Linux's DNA is everywhere. It all began with a restless student, a stack of textbooks, and the guts to rewrite the rules. What started as a personal project under Helsinki's Northern Lights became a global tapestry of collaboration, innovation, and freedom, a testament to the transformative power of code shared without barriers.